So you bought a business, you finally had somebody really dive into the numbers, and they told you basically the business was insolvent.
Yeah, it was, you need to figure out a way to get out of this as quickly as possible, and you're not going to make it. I was like, I'm going to do this. Like that, I just, I have a great resilience, and I just don't believe in no. And I like truly believe I can do anything I set my mind to. And so that's what I did. I didn't even know how to be a leader or, all I knew is what I knew, and I knew I cared, and I knew I wanted to do the right thing. My biggest advice and what got me to where I'm at today is because I always put people first. Sometimes it was messy, and sometimes I didn't put the right people first. I always put people first.
What's success now? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Violand's GPS podcast, Growing Professional Skills, where we like to bring in people from the trades, from the restoration, plumbing, HVAC industries, and talk to them, whether they're business owners or thought leaders, kind of hear their story, learn what worked for them, learn the lessons they had along the way, mistakes they made, things they wish they would have done differently, and hopefully have a little bit of fun along the way and be able to provide you with some great advice. I'm thrilled for our guest this week. I'm your host, Jeff Jones. Our guest is the president of Bravo Restoration out there in the lovely state of California, Miss Nicole Humber. And Nicole, you actually get to carry, you are the sole person in the history of this podcast, which is just over a year old. So we're not going to say it's that old, but you are the sole person who has ever turned me down for coming on the podcast, and was very adamant about that turn down. And so I am thrilled that you changed your mind and decided to come here and be part of this.
Well, my 2026 goal is to be nicer to Jeff Jones. So you just, text me in the perfect time.
That should have been a goal that you put in place a long time ago. I'm glad you finally came to your senses. So thank you for joining us. And, I know your story pretty well, and it's an amazing story, which is why you were one of the first people we reached out to a year ago, and you violently said no to me. But I think the audience is going to love hearing it. So, real quick, and we'll dive into more of the detail on all of this, but you and I, we've known each other for a long time. Can you just kind of quickly let the audience know who you are and what you got going on?
Yeah, Nicole Humber. That's me. I've been in the industry since I was 18 years old, which only looks like a couple years. I mean, I'm aging very gracefully, but it has been 18 years in this industry. And it's just, I started off as a receptionist, worked my way up. So I've done literally every little thing that you can think of. And I've survived it during the 2010 and COVID and fires. And so that's just me.
So what was it that originally drew you to, 18 years old? What brought you to Bravo Restoration in the first place?
So when I was 18, I was going to school full time to be a social worker, a lawyer, or a police officer because I just wanted to give
related.
Yeah, it was related, right? I just felt like, I don't know. And I saw this ad on at the college website of, hey, we need a receptionist. And I looked into it like back in the day where we actually did our research before we interviewed. Sure. And the company was called K2 Environmental, and they had a mold dog. And I was like, what the hell is a mold dog? That sounds so cool. And so I applied, I went and interviewed, and I was like, where's this mold dog? And I guess the dog died. So sad for that dog. I know.
Tragic there real quick.
So sad. Sad. But they hired me on the spot because that's what that's what we do in restoration. We don't do our due diligence and just hire.
Can you clog this mirror? Here's your quote. Go get it.
Go get it. Godspeed. I worked as a receptionist and fell in love with the whole idea of helping people and the chaos of it. At that time, I didn't even know this, but I had, I obviously have ADHD because I'm all over the place, and restoration lets you have that. So while going to school full time and working full time, some things changed, and I left there. And then an owner or an estimator that worked at the same company reached out to me and was like, hey, I started Bravo. I would love your help. And I had been with him since 2011.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
obviously worked your way up, and I think we'll go into that story here shortly. But before we get there, go back to 2011, 2012, Nicole Humber. What was it about the industry back then that made you want to stay in it, that you loved? And we'll flip that coin and say, okay, even back then, here's some things that were frustrating me.
Yeah, I think when I started off in this industry, which was in 2007, 2000, somewhere on there, whatever, I loved just like the chaos of it, doing something different every single day. Back then, we had like folders for jobs, like physical folders, and we had purple for mold, blue for water. So I really liked that whole thing. What I didn't like, or like frustration, like the frustrating things, was just like very old school. That I worked for Jehovah Witnesses, and so they weren't so keen on my lifestyle and my personality was, and it was very male dominated. Like the women worked in the office and the men worked out in the field, and I wanted to be an estimator and a project manager. I begged to go out on job sites, and they never really let me. But when I went to work for Scott at Bravo, he let me do whatever I wanted. So it was a nice transition into Bravo.
I was going to say, I'm going to assume that your company doesn't run that same way of keep the ladies in
Oh
the
my
office.
God. No,
I think we'll get
actually,
there.
we have more females than males that work for my company. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, explain it. How'd you go from admin to trying to get into estimating to El Presidente?
well, when I came over to Bravo in 2011, I helped that guy like build the company up. And in 2016, he was kind of like, "Hey, Nicole, I no longer have the desire to run this company. I'm tired." And he was like 42 at the time too. And at that time, I was like, "Oh yeah, you're older. It's time for retirement." Now I'm like, "Holy shit, you're not that old."
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was a big reality check. But he was like, "Hey, I think you could do a better job. And if you can find the money, you can have it." And so, of course, my brain was like, "Of course, I can do a better job." Even though I've like, no other ideas
It's nice to be
other
young,
than,
isn't it?
yeah, so naive. And I had like talked all my coworkers into staying there. And so I was like, "I have to save their jobs. We're going to do this." So I took a second on my house and didn't tell my husband. It was kind of one of those like ask for
Say that
forgiveness
one
and
again,
not
just so
permission.
everybody catches that part. That's one of the most
Yeah.
amazing part of the story, I think.
Oh yeah. No, he doesn't like it when I share this part. He's really over this part. I try to whisper this part.
Right. He's not watching. You're
Yeah.
fine.
No, it's fine. He might hear me from his office, but it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So I did that, committed, I'm sure that's like illegal somewhere. I don't know. But gave the previous owner, I was like, "Here's what I have." And he was like, "Okay, here's so many shares," right? Like no real math to it, nothing like that. And I knew his personality, and I knew that like if I didn't start doing everything I needed to do to make this sale happen, I would be divorced because I just took a shit ton of money out of our house, and you know that would be all bad. So I, got my contractor's license, got a lawyer. Stupidly, naively, that's a word, had the same lawyer represent both of us. And so that was
Right.
not very
Well, we
smart.
always
But
catch too. Absolutely.
yeah, so yeah. Then July, it took me 6 months, 7 months to do it all. And so July 1st, 2016, I became the official 100% owner of Bravo. And yeah.
So I know from there, it was a rough start. A little rougher than even probably people realize. And again, we'll cover that here in a minute. But I know that you came across a gentleman, Kirk Prouse. And Kirk at the time owned ASR in Oxnard, California. Now, did you know him through DKI, or how did you come across Kirk?
Yeah, I met him at a DKI conference, and he had just joined DKI, and him and Chris and I were all sitting at a table, and we were talking shit about, I think we were talking shit about TNM or something like that. And then, when you hear someone else talking shit, right away, are they my people or they're not? And of course he was my people.
Great guy.
Yes.
So that's how I met you, was through Kirk back then. And Kirk saw that you needed a little help with this. I think he started taking you sort of under his wing, and he wanted to see you be successful and was helping you out, and then said, "Come talk to these guys over here." And then the first time I met you in person was in Captiva at a business planning retreat, where I introduced you to a man named Tim Hall, who now owns Violand Management. And I think in about 15 minutes of sitting there with Tim, the wheels kind of fell off there. You want to tell people what happened? Or are
Yeah,
we
raise your
keeping that
hand
one?
if you've ever been a victim of Tim's bullying. And
All right. We're in agreement.
so, yes, he basically looked at my numbers and was like, "Oh my god, what the hell?" I don't think he cursed because he's not,
Yeah, he's
not until
professional.
later when he's professional.
When you first meet him.
But when you first meet him, yeah. So when we first met, he didn't curse, but that's how I remember it because it makes my story sound better. But it was like, what the hell were you thinking? You're an idiot. What did you buy? And you need to figure out how to get the hell out of this sale or get out of this because you're going to go under. And I just sit there and I was like, ah! And I was by myself and Kirk was behind me and I'm crying. Yeah. Who has ever had Tim make you cry?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we were 15 minutes into our event, and I turn around and we already have the new girl crying, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get fired. This is horrible. But we
That's so
did get
terrible.
Tim's emotional intelligence classes shortly after that.
Oh,
So
thank God. Yeah.
he's calmed down a little bit. But yeah, so you bought a business. You finally had somebody really dive into the numbers, and they told you basically the business was insolvent.
Yeah. It was, you need to figure out a way to get out of this as quickly as possible, and you're not going to make it. And I mean, granted, that Captiva was November 2016. And by the end of December 2016, the company was in a negative, had lost $850,000. So Tim was not wrong. Like, it was really bad.
We're
Really,
not going to
really
tell him he's
bad.
right though either. But Tim
No,
was
I
not
don't
wrong.
know.
But you've
I
already
mean,
mortgaged your house at this point. And by
yeah, I need more
now,
money.
I'm assuming your husband is aware that you own this business.
Yeah, he had an idea about it,
Yeah.
kind of.
And so what went through your mind at this point?
Well, I don't remember I mean, I remember crying and I remember thinking, oh shit, what am I going to do? And what's so crazy is at the hotel that night, I watched that movie, The Intern with Anne Hathaway,
Okay.
and I cried more.
Sure.
And I was
Yeah, I get you. I
thinking,
watch
like,
it once a week. It's great.
it's so good. It's so good. And I remember thinking, like, I needed an old man in my life and to help me, like, get my shit together. And so then that's when I hired Violand. And I had Bill Prosh as my
Where can I find an old
consultant.
gray-haired leg guy? Oh, I know. They got a bunch.
All over the place.
Yeah, it's like going to Walmart for old
Yeah.
gray-haired guys. Fantastic. Okay, so we found you one.
Yeah.
We got you an old
Found
gray-haired
me,
white
found
guy.
me an old gray haired white guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to do this. Like that. I just, I have a great resilience and I just don't believe in no. And I like truly believe I can do anything I set my mind to. And so that's what I did. I just started gathering resources, accepting I didn't know everything. And
When you got to that point though, was there a moment where you said, I bet I could file bankruptcy. I bet I could get out of this. Or was the commitment to seeing it through to your fellow employees, to prove to yourself, was that so great that there was no consideration of trying to find a way out?
yeah, I never even thought of bankruptcy as an
Wow.
option.
That's pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
I would have gone down with it. I would have like I never saw that. It was always like I have to make this work.
Wow. Okay. So now, looking the immediate decisions at that point, you've brought on your old gray haired violin guy and we're turning the business around. We're already out another $850,000. Things looking bleak right here. But what were some of those immediate decisions? Because this is a classic business turnaround story. It is a great story because obviously you're still here in the end. You now own a whole bunch of baseball teams, which we can see that behind you. So with that, what were some of those immediate decisions that you made to start that turnaround process? And how did you get your employees to buy into, hey, we're going to be okay? Or did they not know just how many problems were going on?
I mean, it's so weird. There's so many moments that turned it around, right? Like I don't have one defining moment. It's like the big elephant of making Bravo successful and taking one bite at a time. And the bites happen, a bite would take a year sometimes. A bite would take, whatever. Like there's always a bite going on. But at that time, my employees knew and didn't know. Like a lot of the employees that were there were people like that had, transferred over that were coworkers. And I didn't even know how to be a leader or, all I knew is what I knew. And I knew I cared and I knew I wanted to do the right thing. And those two things, like, and I was determined, right? So those things kind of just like drove me to wherever I could go. So I don't know. Like, I think that employee, like, I only had one employee from that time that stayed with me up until recently when I had to let him go because I closed a division of my company, which I did for a positive reason. But yeah, I, had so many changes. I mean, the first day I owned the company, July 1st, 2016 was a Friday. And I walked into my office and one of the project managers cussed me out and
Wow.
said he doesn't have to listen to me and drove off with the vehicle.
Oof.
And like, it's just like, it was my Bravo life. It's like in a synopsis of what just things after things after things happening. So bite sizes was hiring Violand, obviously not like sales, not trying to sell due to your job, Jeff, but Violand did save my business. It like became the dad I needed. And I know that sounds stupid and weird, but like, doing this by myself, like Ian was not involved. He, has his own career. And Scott, the previous owner, like I did not want him. I didn't like his, leadership style and I didn't like how he ran a business. So I couldn't ask him and I was just by myself. And so having Violand as a sounding board, as somebody who's looking at my numbers, that was a huge turning point for me just to get me to breathe again. And then just, various things like getting off of TPAs, like slowly transitioning off of that, working on my personal health. Like I don't drink, I work out all the time. Like that has been 2 years of that. And I wish I would have done that since day one because my business would have been so much better than it is now. Getting rid of construction, it's just like little.
Getting rid of the distractions and the headaches.
Yes. Like work-life balance in our restoration industry is totally possible.
Well, you came into this with no formal ownership experience, obviously, but you knew eventually you could do it. You felt strongly you could get there, else you wouldn't have done it. So what were those initial leadership gaps where you're like, oh, this should be easier than it is. I've got to figure this part out.
I don't know like the correct terminology for it, but I think what I struggled with the most was hiring the right people and having like, but it all starts with me. So it's like I'm bringing in people. So if they're bad, it's because I'm bad. And so it's like recognizing what Bravo deserved, what my core values were, what I wanted out of this position, and what my expectations were, and so that I can then find that in other people. And so at the beginning of times, like I got tricked and like I trusted the wrong people and they're all there for a reason, but like not having the confidence in myself, like I would let people stay on because I'm like, oh no, like they know this. And what if I don't know this? And it always was so much better once they left, but like trusting myself and trusting that, but I just have so many distractions that I couldn't even like block out the noise to really look at myself and be like, okay, Nicole, no, you do know these things. Like, that's not okay. And yeah.
So, hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Project managers often face unexpected complications, scope changes, adversarial adjusters, budget constraints, tight deadlines, legal issues, and the list goes on. Sound familiar? Most are stretched thin while spending too much time reacting to chaos. Violand's Restoration Project Management Program can help you address these challenges through proven SOPs and industry best practices. It's the most comprehensive educational program in restoration. April 13th through the 18th, 2026 in Cleveland, Ohio. Get the systems you need to increase profit, performance, and service on every job. So sticking with the hiring thing right now, because it's still big, and it shouldn't be, but it's been for the last 10 years in our industry. Hiring has been an issue, and it's right up there with collections right now and sales as far as staffing. So what are some of the tips and tricks you've been using? Because again, you hire to a culture. You've built a culture. You hire to that culture, but that doesn't happen over one day. You talked about taking a bite of the apple.
It took like 10 years.
Yeah, it takes 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
But as you're getting there, and then once you get there, what are some of those things you look for in an interview to help understand not only is this person a good person and a good work ethic, but they fit the culture. Because if they don't, the other stuff just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, like we're still figuring out, our interview process, but one of the things has been getting other people involved. So like we have 3 rounds of interviews and it's, like they're all of our management team or field supervisor or whomever, or even we've had technicians involved in interviews. We have 2 rounds of 4, like 2 teams, 2 people teams in those interviews, and we have questions, and we have a Google form that they fill out, and we ask questions about like core values and ask for examples. But I'm also wanting to know my team's gut check, because intuition and our guts say so much more than what people are going to say in an answer. And so having multiple people on different job positions being involved in the interview process has been a game changer for us. Like we have not had to, we haven't had anyone leave on their own, like whatever the word is, like on their own free will. We've had to eliminate positions, or like, people have outgrown the role, but I've found those people a job before they left. So like, if I can no longer, like, you're no longer on our bus, but I love you and you did a phenomenal job, and you did what you could for Bravo in the time that you were here and you brought value, I set them up with a job. So I've done that this past year. Every person that we have let go, that we had to let go or whatever, they were set up with another job because it was not their fault that the company outgrew them.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I had one other person who did something really similar to doing that, and you could just tell the companies that have that culture of everybody says they care about their employees until it's time to care about your employees. And that goes well beyond just throwing a pizza party. That goes to doing exactly that. Like, I care about you as a human being and I want you to be successful. And who knows, maybe that person goes somewhere else and they develop certain skill sets. And a few years from now, your company changes and there's an opportunity for them to come back and we open up that door. Or their best friend might be the greatest project manager in the history of the world and you had no idea. And now they're recommending your business to somebody. They're recommending it to a potential customer. So it's not burning those bridges. Was there, as you're building this thing out, was there an aha moment? Was there a time where your feet felt like they were underneath you and you woke up and you went, I'm not afraid. I've got this?
Honestly, probably in the last 2 years since I quit drinking, and not that I drink a lot, like it's just socially drinking.
Yeah, okay.
I know, such a lot. Every time I say it, I sound like it. But once I
I've noticed that my
prioritize,
stock in Miller Brewing Company has gone down recently. Is that directly related?
yeah, it's probably, I talk a lot of shit on alcohol. So it's my fault. But I think that, like, once I started working on myself, like my health, my wellness, like my own journey, it's like hippie and cringy as that sounds. I've never felt so at peace and so good with my company than I do these last 2 years.
Well, you're Californian, so you can do that hippie, fringy stuff. It's normal.
I am a business owner, so I don't quite belong in California as much as.
All right. Well, you mentioned it earlier, and anybody who's been around you who knows your business knows that the female owned, and a lot of, I'm sure, had to come from developing this edge of being a young female who didn't have proper training and all of this to own a company prior to, just kind of fell into the situation. And now not only do you own a company, you own a company that at the time is primarily staffed by men, and you had the project manager on day one drive off with your truck. I'm sure that was a lasting image right there. But the
I can see the day.
Yeah, I bet. It's not as much today, but think back 10 years ago, this was very much a male-dominated industry, and it still is. So talk about that. Talk about being a proudly female-owned company. Why is that important to you? And how's that help you develop yourself? How's that develop the business?
Yeah, it's actually so weird because we forget that it's a male dominated industry because we're like stuck in we call it the Bravo bubble. Okay. And like, we don't deal with sexism. We don't deal with racism. We don't deal with like the things that other companies do because it just isn't in our world. Like, our technicians are like at the same level as all of us, you know, and so like everybody, we're all on the same playing field. And so we don't see anybody differently in that way. And sometimes when we're out on projects where we're working with other subcontractors, that kind of like gets shown. But you know, we don't, it's so hard. It's like weird. I have women in our leadership. We have women in the field. I just, it's so exhilarating. Like not, I have two sons, so it's really hard for me to articulate that women are better because I don't want my kids to hear that.
Not editing that out. We're going to stick with that one. Keep going.
Stick with it. I don't even care. But we just are like detail. We have empathy, like, but it's so amazing is that like the men in our company, like this is why I'm saying we don't see sexism, because the men in our company have empathy. They have like the detail oriented. They have the characteristics that, you know, women are so known for. It's just like, I don't know. It's something magical.
Do you think that, does that have a purposeful direct impact on the company culture, or is that the company culture adapts around that? Is being more of a female staffed company weigh in on that?
I mean, it's hard not, I don't know. That's a good question. It could be a little bit of both. I mean, like, it's hard to say. It's like, what makes a woman different than a man? I mean, there's certain, like, there's obviously biological things, but like, you know, I don't know. There is like a little hand in hand. Like we actually give a shit about one another, but men can give a shit about others as well. That doesn't make it a woman dominant trait. So I don't know.
Does it change how you do any kind of training? Does it change how you present the company?
I mean, I for sure use it as a sales pitch. Like, hey, we're woman owned, woman led, and there's women on the field. But we don't like, I don't know. People like it, but they like it because it makes them feel better about themselves that they're using a woman company. But at the same time, it's just who we are. And so, you know, we always like, we grow within, like we just promoted one of our females lead technicians into a field supervisor, and she was going up against a guy. And like, you know, he had experience from previous restoration companies, but she's had our experience. And like, it's funny, if they both left Bravo and they went to another company, he would probably get the job just because he's a male and he's worked for multiple restoration companies. But she has single-handedly redid our shop. She organized and orders all of our materials all on her own. She's like, you know, inventory the equipment. Like she's just so phenomenal. And it makes me like just so grateful that she works for us so that she can continue to grow and her sex doesn't define who she is.
Well, let's jump back from the male female thing. Just go back into the whole general culture of it. Now that you've been doing this for 10 years as the owner, you know, are there certain behaviors maybe that you tolerate now that you wouldn't have early on, or is there any that kind of work in the other direction there?
That's a good question.
As you've grown as a leader, how has that changed? You know, we always say when it comes to employees, they are what you're willing to let them be. Myself included. Tim owns our company, and I am what he's willing to let. And if he wanted a difference in who I am and how I am, I either have to adapt or I'm gone. And so same case in your scenario. Is there certain behaviors now that you aren't as big of a deal to you that you've grown as a leader, or does it go the other way?
I think it would go the other way. Like I have higher, like my expectations are now being met because we've created a culture that this is what the standard is and this is what we do. You know, we have buy-in, we have engagement, you know. Sometimes they miss their note, right? There's still sometimes that like do stuff and it's like, I'm going to murder you. But they do it and I give them grace. And I understand when you're going to 7 different jobs in a day, like, you know, there's empathy there. So I think I've like chilled out a little bit. Maybe I'm more patient, but it's because the problems that we're dealing with are nothing compared to what we had before. And everybody holds each other accountable now. Like we have, you know, the culture kind of just takes care of itself. So I do not tolerate, like, even if someone comes in and they have a ton of experience, but they are creating drama or like, oh, he said, she said, stuff like that. I have no tolerance for that. Like we have no drama in our company, like absolutely no drama. Everybody confronts one another if they have an issue with each other, and we give hugs, and we are hippies to the extreme. So I just won't tolerate. Yeah. So I guess that would be, I don't care how much experience you have. I won't tolerate toxic behavior.
So is it easier for you then to manage against or hold accountable somebody who maybe is slipping a little bit underneath your requirements for the culture than it is for somebody for a performance standpoint?
Yeah, my job is culture, as is the president, CEO. And then I have 3 managers that I oversee, and then they're like responsible, they're dealing more with performance issues and those kind of things, because they're managers for a reason. They're performing, to my expectations. And then I help guide them when they have, little issues. But like our issues are literally stupid things where they're not putting their notes in on time. Like they leave the job at 4:30, but they don't put their note until 7. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, like I'm not, that's all day long. We can deal with those problems.
Sure.
So yeah, my management team deals with more of like, day-to-day stuff. And my main focus is culture and making sure everyone feels seen and heard. And one of my like strengths is I'm very intuitive. And so when the texts like come in at the end of the day and I'm there, like I can feel their vibes. Like if one is off, I go and talk to them. I'm like, what's going on? And I know all of their kids' names, their spouses' names. I know their hobbies. I know what their, favorite things are. So it's like, I can always touch something to just check in on them and make them feel seen and heard.
I love that. Keep them appreciated and let them know that we're in this together. And I like when you said earlier, whether it's the technicians or the project managers or yourself, you're all almost at the same level. Now, realistically, you're not, but the way that everybody's treated is, and that goes a long way. So one of the really cool things that you got to do that I would absolutely love to do someday, you got to spend some time with Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. That
was actually in my kitchen.
Mike Rowe was in your kitchen. Tell me about it. Tell everybody, how did that happen?
So Letitia Hankey, she's a local roofer and in my area, so woman badass, and she runs this nonprofit called the Lime Foundation. And within that, she has a program called the Next Gen Trades, where we teach students about the trades and get them involved. So I've been with her for since I own the business for 10 years, helping with students and all of that. And so Mike Rowe reached out to her and wanted to do a show on her and give, for the whole Next Gen, and give them like money and tools and really help her program. And because I've been with her since the beginning, she's like, hey, I want you to be part of this. Can Mike Rowe come on a project? And I was like, shit, I don't have any like projects he can come on to right now. I was like, fuck it, I'll demo my kitchen. So I made a job site out of my kitchen so that Mike Rowe would come so I can be part of it. And we set up a containment, and Mike Rowe, like my husband was so jealous and he wanted to be here, but he couldn't. And so we made a video of Mike Rowe was like, hey, Ian, this is Mike Rowe. And he like took a sledgehammer to our cabinet.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Cool guy. And he seems on TV, the public version, it seems awesome.
He's so down to earth. His like family, his parents live in Sausalito, which is like 40 minutes south of us. Just like a really cool dude.
I reached out to his group one time. I'm like, I wonder what it would be cost to get him to come be a speaker at our executive summit. I got a hold of somebody from his team, and they're like, tell me about your event. And I told them, they're like, yeah, how do we be polite about this one? And I'm like, I know, we're not big enough.
That sucks.
Yeah, well, I get it. He's trying to raise money for his foundation, and he was not going to get that by attending our event. So I understand that completely. But when you go back to that 2016 to 2018 Nicole Humber, who's starting this business, who's out a lot of money trying to hold the business together, hold your personal life together, hold your marriage together, and now you got Mike Rowe demoing your kitchen not that long afterwards. Could you imagine back in 2017 when the entire world was upside down for you that you were going to get there?
I mean, yeah.
Of course.
Of course.
What else could there be?
I would. I mean, like
that was
Mike Rowe. I mean, yeah. Like I'm obviously not specifics, but I'm a visionary person, and I always knew like the vision I wrote for the planning summit in 2016 of what I wanted my company to be, because that's, Tim said we had to write the vision of not what it is, but what we want it to be and act like it is. And I have achieved everything that vision said. And it's like,
So maybe that
cool.
vision wasn't big enough.
It was not big enough.
That's crazy.
And yeah. So it's, I mean, yeah.
Well, getting to and micro's one cool experience that you've had. I mean, I know you've had plenty in the industry. You've gotten to do some really good jobs. You've got to help an awful lot of people out there. You've got to be involved in the community. When you get to do stuff like that, what does that do for the confidence not only of you but for your team? Do you see any kind of just enjoyment or like wonder in their eyes when they get to do some of these really cool things because what you're doing together?
Yeah. I mean, like, we're very transparent. We have a WhatsApp chat. So anybody that's listening to this, highly recommend you all have a WhatsApp chat for your company because it, again, buy-in and engagement. And so we always share all the fun stuff in there. And I have not heard from my team about money or asking for a raise or any of those things in over a year. And my team consistently says how grateful they are. How I get clients always telling me, like, our biggest compliment from clients is how happy our team is.
Hmm.
And like, oh my God, they're so happy. Like, that's like literally the sentence we hear all the
Well, of
time.
course, they're hippies. They have to be.
Yeah, they're hippies. And it's just, I think they're proud to work for this company, and they take a lot of great pride in what they do, and they understand that they're helping people every day. And so, my team, yeah, they're amazing.
So, for those people who might be listening here that are working for companies right now, and there's a lot of companies in the industry, they're good companies, they're just having rough 18 months. Or they bought a company that isn't doing real well, or they started a company and it's just not as easy as they thought it was going to be. What's the advice you can, as somebody who successfully turned around a company and turned it around pretty quick, and you had a well-respected consultant look you in the eyes early on and say, you're screwed, you can't fix this, you need to get out. And you said, no, I'm going to fix it. And then you fixed it. So what advice can you give to somebody who's in a similar situation? What's the first things they need to know or do to turn that business around?
People first. Take care of your people no matter what. Even if you're like, I can't afford this or this is not right, like, they need to be number one priority because the rest will come. You always figure it out. Like, even bonuses, like end of the year, my staff has always gotten bonuses on years, even years we lost money. And I just took it out of my money because they did the work. What I mean, honestly, if we lose money or bad things happen, whose fault is it? It's our fault. Like, why is it not? It's not their fault. And the fact that people always take away from the staff first when things go bad, it's mind blowing to me. So, my biggest advice and what got me to where I'm at today is because I always put people first. Sometimes it was messy, and sometimes I didn't put the right people first. I always put people first.
Yeah. I don't think that's ever going to go away. You know, if you're somebody who has a good heart, and you have empathy, and you truly care about people to the level that you do, as much as you want to minimize that mistake, it's probably never going to go away. But if it does, that means you're probably also not helping the people that need to go away. That might be an okay mistake to keep
Yeah.
making. Not that you ever want to make it, but that one might be okay. So, go back to that 2018. We're just starting to turn the thing around. You're just starting to breathe. What was success then? What did you think success was then?
Survival. I
Fighting
mean,
again tomorrow.
yeah. Oh my God. Because let's be honest, like 2018, 2019, I think I had another big fire in our area. My kids, I mean, I had a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old at that time. So I was coaching, trying to like be a mom and all that stuff. And so just like survival was my biggest, that was always my indicator. Like, I'm surviving, so I'm doing fine. Um, but I honestly didn't start breathing until the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that
Full
we're here,
transparency.
what's success now?
Yeah, that's what I'm figuring out. Like, I actually bought a big ass calendar. I don't know if you've seen those online, and trying to map out our year. And like, this year I'm doing 2 high roxes, which is like a competitive workout thing. I get to speak at a conference about team culture, which I think like I get to like talk about what I'm passionate about. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I think that's like what my success is like healthy and my team is happy. Like, everything's at peace and happiness, which also scares me because I'll never forget that like you're not allowed to get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always have that fear of like, don't get too comfortable.
So the business is a place now where you've got the team that can help you achieve whatever this future vision is. Because the first vision you wrote, we beat it.
Yeah,
You beat it.
we beat it.
We need a new one.
Yeah, I'm at this awkward phase right now where I'm like, what is next? Like my 10-year anniversary is July 1st, and I'm taking my entire team to Disneyland.
Okay.
And I already have the tickets. Like that's my big thing. And I'm like, getting to that is my, goal right now. And I'm so afraid is that when that's done, what's next? Because I also know, like, I still touch, right? I can't get too comfortable where I'm like, oh, business is great. I can just sit back and do nothing. Like, I still, my job is culture and checking in with the team. And, I love knowing everything to do with them. But like, what is the next vision? Because I'm not driven by money. Like, I don't give a shit if we hit 5 million, 10, like, we could be a $3 million company or a $5 million company. There's really no difference to me. That doesn't, like, a $5 million company does not make me happier. So I don't know what my next step is.
Is it maybe some of that you mentioned, like the ADHD early on? Does that make it so you can't sit still? We can't be compliant. We can't be content. There's
Are
always
you
something
in my marriage counseling right now? Like,
I've worked with a few business owners over the years.
I'm pretty sure that's what the therapist said too.
Okay. So we got to find that vision that works for everybody that's making you happy, because I know you're going to go try and crush that one too. But this time you get to bring a group of people with you and help them achieve their vision. And to me, that's pretty cool. So when you look at who you are now and everything that you've risked to keep Bravo alive, what's the number one thing? Put yourself first. What is the number one thing now that you're most proud of?
Aside from like the team and where like our culture and everything, I think I'm just proud of myself. Like I practice gratitude and I have the team practice gratitude. That's another little nugget for everybody is we talk every single morning and we say what we're grateful for. I'm consistently grateful for like who I am, what I contribute to our community, to my company, to my team, the positive impact I make on others, and just like, the never stop growing and learning. And so like, I'm proud of myself and where I've come. And yeah.
We'll do one more question for you, more industry related. You've been in the industry, what'd you say, since 2012? 2008?
No, 2008. Yes.
Okay.
2007.
So for a little while. You've been in the industry. You've been with two different companies. I know you've been involved in different organizations. We mentioned you were at DKI one time. I know RIA you've been a part of. Where do you see the industry going in the next 5 years? Do you see more consolidation? Do you see more headaches? Or do you see a brighter path for everybody that's out there?
I think if everybody can stop thinking that this industry is all about making money and like, water jobs and let's set a shit ton of equipment. I think that like we are a calling, like we're helping people, like we're third responder. It's like we're like, third responders and or second responders. I don't foresee like the insurance company, like we can't relate or rely on them. My business model is we work with private homeowners and private property and commercials or whatever, and we write estimates before everything. Like we don't go onto a house, even if it's flooded, without an estimate and a home improvement contract, because that's what you're supposed to do as a contractor. And our industry is so stuck in the ways of like, well, the insurance will pay for it, or let's just dump a ton of equipment on here and we're just going to rely on that and do whatever we want because we need to make these bonuses, and everything's so driven by money. I think our industry, when people can pull their heads out of their asses and stop thinking like that, like we have a very awesome servant's heart industry that does a lot for the community. And so
such a California hippie answer, right?
I know, but I'll survive. I'll outlive everybody else.
I know, that's because you're healthy.
Yeah, all that. But I mean, my company, my company will outlast other small companies with that mindset. So
I love it.
No shame.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you finally agreeing to come on. Your story is outstanding. and everything that you have going with the business. I think that a lot of people can look up and see what you've done and see that it is possible. And if you could do it, they get the right mindset like you have, they can do it too. So with that, I will leave it to you for the final goodbye to our audience. I'll say the whatever good podcasters say about the like, subscribe, and push some button somewhere type thing. So do that. But Nicole, I will leave it to you. Anything you want to say as we leave?
Oh, thank you, Jeff. I will be kind to you. I love you, Jeff.
That is part of your New Year's resolution. So I need that in writing, and I'm putting that on my calendar, on my wall, so I can constantly remind you to be nice to me.
Deal.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Pleasure, and thank you, Nicole.